welcome. This is the July 19th meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'd like to start the meeting by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's decisions will be published in the Record Journal on Friday, July 23rd, 2021. The effective date of your variance will be Friday, July 23rd, 2021. The date a certified copy is recorded on the land records. The statutory 15-day appeal period will expire on Sunday, August 8th, 2021. If you commence operations and/or construction during the appeal period, you do so at your own risk. There are two applications. If you're here for 21-014 for Moran on Church Street, that one has been removed. And 21-017 for Ben Haven, that one they've asked to be continued to September. Voting tonight is Mr. Carmody, Mr. Wolfer, Mr. Sherwinski, Mr. Rise, and myself, Mr. Russick, is chairman. Also, Bob Parisi is here as alternate. First variance request is 21-012 for Magary for 48 Apple Street. Please come up. Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. In regards to application 21-012, Magarty, 48 Apple Street, applicant requests front yard of 24.5 feet where 24.7 feet exists and 40 feet is required, and building coverage of 23% where 20% exists and 15% max is permitted to construct a single-story, 270 square foot handicap accessible addition at 48 Apple Street in an R18 district. Parcel is non-conforming with regard to lot area, setbacks, and building coverage, as well as located on a corner lot. Applicant request is for an accommodation to allow reconfiguring interior bedrooms and bath for handicap accessibility. This office has determined the presence of both accessibility need as well as hardship and can support these requests. We also have, along with the application, some drawings. One received May 14th, 2021, and then a proposed plan by Stonewall Boundaries LLC received May 14th, 2021 as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and record for the name and address for the record.
Erin Magary, 48 Apple Street, Wallingford.
Could you explain your application, please?
Sure. We're trying to make my bathroom handicapped accessible for my partner, Sarah. And in doing so, we'll need to expand it to include a roll-in shower. And we also need to make the bedrooms accessible. So we are asking to push out the 2 bedrooms on the side of the house that faces Quint Street 10 feet.
Okay, I see you're on a corner lot, and your hardship is because of the corner lot, right? The hardship?
The hardship, yeah, I guess, because we're going to run into a setback thing.
Yeah.
Is that what, yeah.
Okay. Has anybody got any questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Does anybody here speak in favor of this application? Anybody here? Did you want to speak in favor of the application, sir? Oh, okay. Anybody here to speak against this application? Hearing none, do you have anything further you'd like to add? No. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to Approve a variance request for front yard setback of 24.5 feet to construct single-story 10-foot by 27-foot addition as shown as proposed plot plan, land of Aaron McGarry, 48 Apple Street, dated May 13, 2021, and plans rendering received 5/14/2021, subject to comments by the Health Department received 7/12/21, and comments from the Water Division dated July 8, 2021. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Motion to approve, Mr. Carmody?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolford?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Sherwinski?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rise?
Yes to approve.
And I vote yes.
Also, I have a variance request for building coverage of 23% to construct single-story 10-foot by 27-foot addition as shown on proposed plot plan, land of Aaron McGarry, 48 Apple Street, dated 5/13/2021, and plans rendering received 5/14/2021, subject to the comments of the Health Department received 7/12/21, and comments from Water and Sewer Division dated July 8, 2021. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Motion to approve, Mr. Carmody?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolford?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Sherwinski?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rise?
Yes to approve.
And I vote yes. Your application's been approved.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next variance request is 21-016, variance request for Budka for 5 Island Drive. Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. In regards to application 21-016 for Budka 5 Highland Drive, applicant seeks front yard of 32.8 feet where 42.8 feet exists and 40 feet is required to construct a 250 square foot addition to the attached garage at 5 Highland Drive in an R18 district. Parcel is currently compliant and fronting Highland Avenue on 3 sides, therefore limiting compliant alternatives for the addition since any proposal requires compliance with 3 front yard setbacks of 40 feet. We also have some correspondence here from William and Joyce Budka dated June 14th, 2021. We have some correspondence from John Geary and Christine Geary dated June 14th, 2021. Looks like a drawing here dated June 24th, 2021, and then a architectural drawing dated June 17th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Please state your name and address for the record.
William Budka, 5 Highland Drive, Wallingford, Connecticut.
Joyce Budka, 5 Highland Drive, Wallingford, Connecticut.
Thank you.
Pull that up, there
you go. Please explain your application.
We have, our house is a split-level house, and it has just a crawl space for storage. Over the years, past years, I got 2 full knee replacements. And when you were younger and you had injuries on your back, they were good. Now we're in our 70s, and so it's very difficult to get under there to get most of our storage. That's basically the only storage that we have, and so we opted to, instead of not having anything to be stored under there, is to put an addition on.
Okay, and your hardship is?
Basically, I can't get under there anymore.
Okay, but your hardship goes with the land, and I see you're on a corner lot, so you
Yes.
have the corner lot as
Yes.
being your...
That's the only way we can put any addition on is on that side. It does not block anybody. And as a matter of fact, one of the drawings, I did a picture of it, and I did a Photoshop to show you what it would look like should we put if we're approved to put the addition on. My wife's back is hurt, and she's currently going through physical therapy. And basically, physically, we're not able to get under there.
Right. The hardship is the lot, though, and the being on a corner lot.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? No. Seeing none, is anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here to speak against this application? Seeing none, do you have anything further you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm going to close this public hearing and open it up for a discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to approve this variance request for front yard of 32.8 feet to construct 10-foot by 25-foot single addition to the attached garage dwelling at 5 Highland Drive as shown on improvement location survey property of William J. Jr. and Joyce Budka, 5 Highland Drive, dated 6/3/21, and plans rendering received 6/17/21 and 6/24/21, subject to the comments of the Health Department received 7/12/21, and the Water and Sewer Division dated July 8th, 2021. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Motion to approve, Mr. Carmody?
Yes, to approve.
Mr. Wolfer?
Yes, to approve.
Mr. Shawinski?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rise?
Yes, to approve.
And I vote yes. Your application's been approved.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much.
Next variance request, request is 21-018 for a special exception request for In Memoriam Cemetery Association, 1 North Main Street Extension. Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondence?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, in regards to application 20-018 in Memoriam Cemetery Association of Wallingford, 18 Maple Avenue, in parentheses, 1 North Main Street Extension, applicant seeks special exception approval to expand the burial plots and add construct internal roadways for access and navigation around the proposed burial sites. Site is an existing cemetery in excess of 20 acres. Applicant is proposing no new structures/buildings. Special exception requests for changes/expansions of the cemetery use should evaluate the nature, location, size, intensity, and site layout of the use such that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it is situated as per section 9.1J1 of the Wallingford zoning regulations. The cemetery is an existing development/use of the parcel, yet any proposed changes and alterations require new/additional special exception approval. We also have a plan here dated June 18th, as received June 18th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Dennis Senaviva. I'm an attorney with the Senaviva Law Firm, and I represent the owner and applicant. To my left is Dr. Frank Pimentel, who is the chairman and president of the Board of Trustees of In Memoriam Cemetery Association of Wallingford. The narrative was submitted as part of the applications, you know, Mr. Chair, and I'm just going to follow along with it. The corporation was created on May 26, 1887, and that entity operates In Memoriam Cemetery on Maplewood Avenue and North Main Street Extension. I think that was right around the middle of Mr. Parisi's first term on the council. Pursuant to section 4.1D6 of your zoning regulations, cemeteries are a permitted use by special exception granted by the ZBA in accordance with the provisions of section 9.1 of your regs. And again, this predated zoning, so we're not here to amend an existing special exception. This is our first presentation before the board because, again, the cemetery was created prior to the regulations in the town of Wallingford. We're here now because there is a master plan the Cemetery Association has. It's desirous of increasing the burial plot area within the current approximately 20 acres that this parcel is composed. And part of a master plan for expansion. It's really a 10-year plan. We're here. If the board was to see fit to grant approval, it's not something that would be commenced immediately. Again, there's additional land. It would not change the footprint of the development. Everything would be internal to the site. There'd be additional roadways and extended water mains. There'd be no lighting. There's no lighting currently, keeping the character of the cemetery exactly the same as it is currently. Further, there's no request, and I want to make this clear, there's no request or proposal for a crematorium on site, as again, no new structures are being proposed, as your staff comments point out. Now, we met with your staff some time ago, and they were very helpful, and they suggested, and we've incorporated into the plan, the submission that shows arrows depicting the internal one-way traffic. So if you looked at our plan, you've seen that there's arrows helping to direct traffic. The intent is to make certain that the cemetery does not create any internal traffic flow problems that could impact the municipal roadway system. So we want to make certain that there's nothing that would impact on the town roads. And again, the genesis of the master plan is the obvious need created by our own natural mortality and that of our pets. There is a section in the cemetery for pets. And of course, we have to comply with the provisions of section 9.1J of your regulations. Those are the objectives for special exceptions. I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to look at it, but let me just review those with you. Again, the nature, location, size, intensity, and site layout shall be such that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it is situated. Here, we're not changing the footprint at all, so it's the same. We're not adding any property. It's just additional burial plots within those 20-plus acres. So the nature and size of the use, again, it's more intense in the sense that there's more plots, but it's not more impactful in the sense that there's no additional structures, there's no crematorium, there's nothing that would impact the municipality. The location and height of buildings and structures, the location, nature, and height of walls and fences, and the nature and extent of landscaping shall be such that the use shall not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent lands. I think most of the land in that area is developed. Again, other than there's some vacant land which is part of the cemetery on the, I guess it would be on its east side, and that's the area that would encourage some development in the future. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's really a pretty straightforward application. No change to the footprint, no structures, no lighting, just extended roadways and some additional burial plots as the time over the next decade or so.
Thank you. I have just a few questions. I mean, that open space in that cemetery's been there, as you say, forever. And it's come time. So 2-lane roads going through the whole place? Single-lane road?
Yeah, I want to do it. I think that was a discussion we had with staff, and we want to make certain that there isn't, it hasn't happened yet. We want to make certain in the future there isn't a situation where, you know, cars are conflicted, having difficulty getting into the site, for example. That could provide or potentially cause a backup onto the roadway system. So I want to make it clear it's all one directional.
Yeah, one directional, but it's going to be single lane, it's got to be 2-lane wide or something, so if somebody parks, they can get around them.
That's
correct?
Right. Yes.
What time frame are you guys, I mean, I know you said it's a 10-year plan, but you're going to be starting in the next year, 2 years, something 5 years down the road?
Introduce yourself, Frank.
Frank Pimentel here.
You can pull the microphone close to you. There you
Sure.
go.
Excuse me, could you repeat your name? I didn't hear.
Yes, Frank Pimentel. I believe the progression of this development is going to be primarily based on funds. And if we look at that and what we've experienced in the past, that it's going to take some time. And I can't imagine anything less than 10 years here for that development that we're looking at.
Okay, so when you start it, you're going to do that whole thing, or is it going to be parts of it start?
It's going to be parts.
Okay.
Yeah, impossible to be able to fund the entire expansion in one action.
Okay, I believe my last question I have is what are you guys gonna do for buffer to the, I believe the only ones I think would probably mainly be concerned would be the Maplewood Avenue, just and residents, maybe on the front of Maplewood Avenue, and then, because the ones on the corner now, they probably can't see much in there because of just the way it's all situated, but now that you're gonna be down this far and that lot is pretty, I wouldn't say it's completely flat, but you could see pretty far back there.
Right.
And along the side of, would be number 66 Maplewood. Are you guys putting buffer? What are you gonna do to protect them from having to, be in their backyard?
Well, the development, in this master plan also took into account that the cemetery itself would have proper fencing, and, but it wouldn't be anything to block a view. The view would be of the cemetery, and the adjacent properties that exist now already have trees, and that would be a buffer that we would leave. But on Maplewood Avenue itself, they view the cemetery as it is.
I'm mainly, I mean, I understand that, pretty much, and it's gonna be, the burial plots will probably be set back from the road. So that's not,
Yes.
I would imagine. But as far as, the side yard of number 66, that first house that's adjoining when you're heading east down Maplewood,
Okay.
is there gonna be some sort of buffer for them?
Well, you know, we hadn't even gotten to that point to consider that, but that's definitely what we would want to do. We would want to keep the cemetery, the neighbors happy, and we would consider all of that.
Yeah, I would like to see something down there to protect them from, I mean, I didn't see any correspondence with them saying anything, but in my mind, I would like to see some sort of buffer there to protect them from, and I realize this is down the road, it's not something that's gonna happen right away, but still, they have use of their yard, and, to not be able to sit out there and not watch a burial go on or whatever, in my, just mine.
Mr. Chairman, we did have some discussions with staff about landscaping, and I think, it's a very valid point, and we certainly would consider a condition if this board saw fit to grant the application that, landscaping would be worked out with your staff at the time that it's done, if that's appropriate, so that, we're comfortable working with the planning staff or the zoning staff.
Okay, Amy, is that something you would be okay with?
It's certainly appropriate for you to add conditions to the special exception approval. The special exception approval is for their use. So it's certainly debatable, but it appears that with the addition of roads and any applicable drainage and water lines and whatnot, that the applicant will still need to go through site plan approval, and those types of things can be picked up at that place.
Okay, yeah, so this is gonna, they still have to go in front of the planning and
Correct.
zoning then? Okay, they would pick it up then?
So,
Okay, all right, very good. Has anybody got any questions for the applicant? No? Anybody? Lou?
Yes, just a couple questions. So, as Mr. Chairman had mentioned, 66, but there's these other lots that border the cemetery where the road appears to go up along. You're saying that all of those homes are kind of wooded in the back, so there's a natural buffer there already?
At this point, yes.
Okay. And that natural buffer is on their property, or it's on the cemetery's property?
I think on both.
Okay,
There's quite a deer population in that area.
okay. And then you'd mentioned that there's not going to be a crematorium, but, so section P, it says cremation. That's not, can you just explain that?
That's for burials.
For burials, okay, just want to make sure, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
I just, yeah,
Go ahead,
if I may.
Go ahead, Bob.
Were there anyone speak against the proposal from the public?
Not yet, I'm going to go out now and see if.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Anybody here to speak against this application? Would you like to speak? Would you come up to the microphone, please? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Alexander Hens, 22 Winding Brook Lane, Wallingford, Connecticut.
What's your address, sir?
22 Winding Brook Lane, Wallingford, Connecticut.
Okay, thank you.
Where is Maple Street towards the east side?
It's up off of North Main Street.
And that is going towards 91?
No, it's heading north.
Okay. The only questions that I have into the lot and the jurisdiction is who or whom it would follow to any type of debris or chemical mishaps or anything that would go in the plotting and zoning of that area. Would we have any recourse or any type of enforcement done to, like as Ms. Schumer said, was the sewage and the type of waste removal that be undergone or undergo with care?
So I don't believe there's going to be any buildings with any bathrooms or anything, so as far as that, I'm not understanding what you're talking about for waste.
CO2 monoxide and release of hazardous gas and chemicals, because if you're going to be revisiting a crematory or cemetery, then there would be disruption to the land, which, as he stated, the land was given to burial grounds, which aren't in the actual town laws and legislature, which means it would be up to debate whether or not it would be a public zone of a habitable environment or an actual, like a memorial, because then it would be sanctified and it couldn't be touched.
Cemeteries are allowed in our zoning regulations.
No, I understand that, but as to what information comes into a memorial and generous donations, some things are supposed to not be touched for further persecution. Or, as we said, with more innovations comes more railroads. And we had to handle what we needed to handle, and I feel that the property and the disposition of surpluses have been misguided and misrepresented in our town.
I don't know where that would fit into approving this. I mean, a cemetery does not emit any emissions, doesn't, I don't see where it even bothers with any of the CO2s or any of it. I just don't follow what you're after, sir.
We're talking about trees, correct? There are herbs and different type of animals or bones and skeletons in said cemetery? Or is that incorrect?
They might be buried there, yes.
Okay,
correct.
so as we know, when we cut a tree down, it releases carbon monoxide, correct?
If that's what you say.
Well, if we need zoning and regulations to what is tampering with soil and preservation of land, which comes into pH levels and getting an outside humanitarian source to allow said jurisdictions to take place.
Okay, I believe that the cemetery owns this property and they have a right to develop it.
Correct. They do have a right to develop, but in a spot that could be contemporary as a memorial, do they get the right to dig up the graves?
Yes, I do. I believe they do.
So then can we have a testing then done of the air pressure and the releasing of whatever is in the ground to have a contemporary or a modern view of what is maybe de-escalation of what doesn't really need to be zoned and fracked?
I think you're asking for something that's never been asked of this board before, or of anybody who's developed a piece of property in town, that as far as I know.
Correct, because we don't understand expenditures, quoting Mayor Dickinson, and we don't understand numbers. So I actually have different forms to not adjourn, but to qualify for where the spending of our previous surpluses have gone for taxable reparations. Different subject, but same principles applied to if you destroy the land, we need reparations.
I don't see where they're destroying land. They're developing it for use for a cemetery, and they have the right to do it.
Correct, but it said 10 years, correct?
Well, they have a plan, and they said it might take 10 years to get the plan going.
So in the past 10 years then, how have we, because I was here at our last town committee, and it said, or we understood that any type of emissions and what have been going on with our current weather, then there's a lot of sewer drainage, infiltration, and improper disposal of materials and waste. Because, as we said, they're going to need to shut down roads, increase pollution, and get diesel gas guzzlers in order to make said recommendations or adjustments.
And they will follow all state regulations when they're done.
State regulations, which also would imply the ability for a humane facility or a facilitation of said just a compromise. Because we as townspeople deserve to be able to have input for future zoning and, as we're dealing with right now, a very invasive upheaval of energy, if that is not understood through what is, I guess, what they call anonymous donations or helpful advice to not further persecute what is to be left dead.
Okay, I'll take it all, and we'll see what the board has to say, and I thank you for your comments.
Yes, surplus.
Is there anybody else here who'd like to speak against this application? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Or do you have anything further you'd like to add?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'd like to close the public hearing and open up for discussion and possible action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the special exception request for cemetery at 18 Maplewood Avenue, North Main Street. Extension to add burial plots and internal roadway as shown on data accumulation plan depicting proposed master plan layout, land NFN Memorial Cemetery, 1 North Main Street extension dated June 8th, 2021, subject to nothing. That's it.
Second.
Make a motion.
I got a motion and a second. Motion to approve, Mr. Carmody.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Wolfer.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Sherwinski.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Rise.
Yes to approve.
And I vote yes. Your application for the special exception has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes for last meeting?
Dennis.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I just want to say thank you for everybody for coming. Our first meeting back live. It's great. Good to see everybody, and thank you to the public for coming. It's good. And staff. And motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.